finally, I am through our allotment for the semifinals for SPS FC. Hello and welcome to my channel. In this video I'm going to be giving a spoiler-free review for both Galaxy Cruise and for Reap3r. These were the last two in the semifinal bracket that we needed to go. This has been kind of a rough go. I've not really been a fan of most of the books that we've gotten. These weren't really exceptions, but I'm going to kind of talk through each of these and why things didn't necessarily work and where things might for you if you're different than me. So let's start with Galaxy Cruise. So Galaxy Cruise is a sci-fi comedy, and the main conceit here is that we have a human from Earth, and there aren't many of them, and he gets kind of wrangled into an experiment where he's going to captain like a cruise ship, which is designed to look like a cruise ship from Earth, because that's kind of the theme, basically. And the bulk of the humor, I do air quotes because it didn't work that well for me, and I think it might for some. The bulk of the humor is kind of just the same joke that the aliens don't really know anything about Earth or Earth culture or history, and so the bits of things that they do know are like really messed up and are kind of put in a humorous light because of that sort of thing, basically. And there's also some bits about how, the main character is a human, not understanding the alien cultures or food or that kind of thing. But that's really what we get for like the bulk of the jokes. And it does explain in the premise why. There's basically like only a very small amount of humanity survived on some cataclysm on Earth, and they were from America. So like the aliens just think that the planet was America, and that if you're from Earth, yeah, American, and some other alien who didn't really understand any of the data just kind of wrote the history, and it was all made up. And so that's really what we get. There's just lots of jokes, references to brands, or like jokes about history or whatnot. Where it's like, oh, this was this, that was that. And it's just like, they were okay. They weren't like terrible jokes, but it just never really landed that well for me. And the story part, that's not just those kinds of jokes with the whole cruise ship, and there's a conspiracy there kind of going on as well. It didn't really seem to make a whole lot of sense, and it just like as it was going, I don't know. I didn't feel like the story was handled that super well, and I feel like if I was like thinking like, oh, this is so funny, I'd probably be willing to look over that. But since the humor didn't land that well, and I wasn't enjoying the story all that much, it just kind of was the end of it too, which I guess sets up the continuance, I didn't really care for. I didn't think it made a lot of sense, and I'm not really sure where it's going to go, but it's not going to be a series I'm going to be continuing, so I'm not going to actually find out. Let's talk then about Reap3r. So this one is a bunch of things kind of crammed together that don't really pan out, which is why it's a little hard to describe. So the title of the book, Reap3r, is referring to an app basically that's for hitmen or hit people or whatever, and you just like it'll pop up and you can claim it and get paid. This is a very small amount of this book. We see it in the prologue, and then we see it important at the very end, but it has very little to do with the story that's being told, and I'm not really sure why that's the title of the book, to be perfectly honest, because it's not really super relevant. But basically, the story we have here is there's this huge company called Human Capital, and they invest in people who they think will do things that are gonna either like change the world or make them all kinds of money, but go figure, they're corrupt, and they're involved with some like government corruption and conspiracies as well. And there's these different people that they've invested in who are trying to do some different things and get kind of wound up in this conspiracy. But it's just none of it really comes together that much, because we've got a character who is involved in like quantum computing, which the government is using to spy. We have a character who is involved in like very advanced kind of like biology and there's a conspiracy there. And then we have, of course, I guess the thing that's supposed to pull together a long-form podcaster who took a grant because she does like investigative journalism, and so that's kind of the idea, is that she ends up talking to these people and is trying to help kind of work through with it. And that's sort of what we're looking at. But like I said, the threads just don't seem to be that related, and they don't really come together super well. There's also pretty much every time anything needs to happen, it's just, oh, well, this other person happens to have this sort of resource or has this thing going. And there's not really any explanation as to how any of these people have the connections that they do or are able to do the things that they do. It just sort of works out. And so there's really not a lot of tension here, because everything just is kind of made available as needed. And like I said, it just felt really, really disjointed the whole time, and never really came together for any type of good story. This is not a super long book, but I feel like I was 2/3 of the way through before it even really started to have a point. It just seemed like we were just spending a lot of time with these different threads, and then the kind of quick rush to put them together just didn't really make a lot of sense or seem very compelling. And then the ending just seemed like, oh shoot, we called this Reaper, we've got to make that relevant somehow, and threw that in. And so just did not really work for me either on any levels. Just never really came together here. I didn't, with both of these books, they're not ones that I hated, but I didn't particularly care for them or think that they did a very good job with what it was they were trying to do, which is unfortunate, but not surprising at this point in the SPSFC competition, unfortunately. So really, those are my thoughts on these two, Galaxy Cruise and Reaper. Neither for me. I am holding out hope that maybe I will enjoy some of the ones that make it into the finals, but that will remain to be seen. But those are going to be my thoughts essentially for this one. So let me know if you've read these, or if you've read some really good sci-fi lately. Let me know. I've been expanding a little more into sci-fi, and I've had obviously very mixed results so far with SPSFC as a competition. So let me know if you've read any great sci-fi lately. Recommend in the comments. Would love to hear it. Otherwise, make sure to give the video a like if you enjoyed it. Check the link in the description, as always, for the Wizardly Duo Discord if you want to chat books, whether these books, other books, any books, really anything at all. It is a lot of fun, and we would love to have you. And of course, if you enjoy my content, make sure to subscribe.